It's year 900. You're in Norway, within the Arctic Circle. The temperature has dropped to -30. For months now, you mostly live in darkness as the sun barely clears the horizon. You have a wife, 4 children, and 2 elderly parents depending on you. And somehow, you keep them all alive till spring. Meanwhile, across colder parts of Northern Europe, many communities struggled badly with the same winters, not because they were less intelligent, but because they had not built the same systems. The Vikings endured these cold winters for several hundred years. This should not have been possible. They lived further north. They had less. And yet they survived, generation after generation. Was it their gods, their mindset, their blood? Partly. But mostly, it was engineering, it was systems, and it was a relationship with the natural world so precise, so deeply understood, that every single element of their winter life was calculated to keep them alive. In this video, we are going to go through exactly how they did it: the longhouse, the fire, the food, the clothing, the sleep, the community structure, and at every step, we are going to compare it to how medieval Europe handled the same problem. Because that contrast is where the real story lives. Stay with me. This is going to change how you think about survival and about what humans are actually capable of. Let us start with the structure itself. The Viking longhouse was not a house in the way we think of one. It was a survival machine. The walls were turf, packed earth and grass, sometimes a meter thick. That is not primitive, that is genius. Turf is one of the best natural insulators on Earth. It traps air, it blocks wind, it holds heat in a way that timber alone never could. The roof was low and angled, designed to let snow accumulate on top. And snow, like turf, is an insulator. The heavier the snowfall, the warmer the house became. In colder parts of Northern Europe, think Northern England, the Baltic coast, parts of Germany, timber homes of the same era often had single-layer walls with gaps that let in wind. In deep winter, those homes were brutal to live in. The Viking longhouse had one more feature that was rare in European domestic architecture of the time. Animals lived inside. This was intentional. Cattle, sheep, goats, kept in a separate section of the longhouse but under the same roof. A cow produces 10 to 15 times more heat than a human. The Vikings understood this. They built their homes around it. Inside the longhouse, at the center, was the fire. Not a fireplace, not a hearth in a corner, a central fire, open, positioned to distribute heat in every direction, with a smoke hole above it to pull the air through. The fire never went out. This was not optional, this was survival policy. Someone in the household was always responsible for the fire. Through the night, embers were banked, covered in ash to hold heat slowly, and rebuilt in the morning. The focal point of every longhouse was the hearth. This was where meals were prepared and consumed, and where the family gathered on dark winter evenings. In much of Northern Europe, homes of the same period moved toward wall-mounted fireplaces, more architecturally refined, but thermally less efficient for heating a whole room. The central hearth the Vikings used was a simpler, older solution, and in terms of raw heat distribution, it worked better. The Viking central fire heated the room, the people, and the food simultaneously. Smoke was a problem, yes. Viking longhouses were smoky. Residents developed lung conditions over time, but they were alive, and in winter, alive was the only metric that mattered. If this is landing for you, hit like and subscribe. We go this deep every week. The Vikings did not survive winter by finding food in winter. They survived by spending the entire summer and autumn preparing for it. This was an industrial operation. Fish were caught in massive quantities during summer runs, then dried, salted, or smoked. Stockfish, air-dried cod, could last 2 years without refrigeration and contained exceptional protein density. Meat was salted and stored in barrels. Dairy was fermented into skyr, a high-protein cultured product almost identical to what we call Icelandic yogurt today. Grains were stored in raised buildings to keep them dry and away from rodents. In colder parts of Northern Europe, many communities relied heavily on bread and seasonal vegetables with limited preservation infrastructure. When harvests failed, options were few. Viking communities were not immune to famine. The Norse colony in Greenland eventually collapsed, partly because settlers clung to familiar farming habits rather than adopting local survival techniques. But within their home environment in Scandinavia and Iceland, their food systems were exceptionally robust. The Viking diet in winter was monotonous, but it was engineered for survival: high fat, high protein, high caloric density. Exactly what the body needs to generate heat in extreme cold. They also fermented extensively. Fermented foods provided gut bacteria, vitamins, and calories when nothing fresh was available. They understood this not through science, but through generations of watching what kept people alive. Staying warm outside was a different challenge. Viking clothing was built on one principle: layering. Wool closest to the skin, more wool over that, fur on top. Wool is remarkable. It insulates when wet. It regulates temperature. It does not compress under weight, which means it keeps its insulating air pockets even under armor or heavy outer layers. Footwear was leather, shaped closely to the foot, sometimes stuffed with grass or wool for insulation. In colder, wetter parts of Northern Europe, linen was a common textile, and linen loses most of its insulating value when wet. For communities facing wet winters rather than the dry Scandinavian cold, this was a real problem. The Vikings, with access to high-quality northern wool and established fur trade routes, had a material advantage in their specific climate. The Vikings dressed like they understood thermodynamics, because in practice, they did. Survival in Viking winter was not just physical, it was social. Families slept together, closely. Body heat was shared deliberately. Beds were built into the walls of the longhouse, enclosed on 3 sides, which created a microclimate of warmth. Furs piled on top completed the insulation. The community structure of the longhouse meant that no one faced winter alone. Extended family, servants, hired help, all lived under the same roof, multiple generations side by side. The Norse concept of hospitality, offering warmth and food to travelers, was not just cultural generosity, it was a survival network. You helped others because one day you would need the same. In many parts of Northern Europe, domestic life was more fragmented. Smaller households, less communal infrastructure, and social hierarchies that concentrated resources at the top. The Viking longhouse model, where multiple generations, workers, and animals all shared the same space and the same warmth, was a particularly efficient solution to the specific challenge of a long Scandinavian winter. The Vikings survived because they operated as systems, not individuals. Before the outro, drop a comment. Which part surprised you most? The longhouse design, the food systems, or something else? I read every one. So, let us bring it together. The Vikings survived some of the harshest winters on Earth, not through luck, not through mythology, and not through toughness alone. They survived through systems built specifically for their environment, refined over generations. A longhouse engineered for heat retention, walls of turf a meter thick, snow piling on the roof as an extra layer of insulation. Animals kept indoors on purpose, their body heat part of the design. A central fire that never died. Food prepared months in advance using preservation techniques. Stockfish, skyr, fermentation, that are still used in Norway and Iceland today. Clothing built on the physics of insulation. And a community structure that meant no one faced the cold alone. Were they the only civilization to figure out cold weather survival? No. But in their corner of the world, in one of the harshest climates on the planet, they built something remarkable. A system so complete, so interconnected, that it sustained entire civilizations for centuries, and left a mark on the world we are still living inside. That is the Viking winter, not a story of brute survival, a story of intelligent design in the face of nature. Next week we go deeper. Subscribe so you do not miss it.